Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with another new episode and a new recipe from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting and it dates back to the Mughal Empire. One can also say even before that, when the Mughals were also known as the Mongols. This recipe has originated from their tribal area, and also it has been very famous in the areas of KPK, also known as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Even if you go to Peshawar, like current day Peshawar right now, and around the adjoining cities of Peshawar city, you'll see a lot of roadside restaurants or roadside cafes serving this recipe, serving this dish with their own take on it. This recipe is known as Namkeen Gosht. Namkeen Gosht is the ancestor of Karai Gosht, you can say. Why? Because this recipe has tomatoes and green chilies. But when you talk about Karai Gosht, the recipe which actually came after Namkeen Gosht, you have a lot of other spices and things that are added into it. This recipe is basically made with lamb or mutton. Why? Because if you talk about KPK and the Peshawar area, people in that area love to have meat, but only lamb and mutton. When it comes to beef, the most famous recipe over there is usually made with rice, which I actually taught you how to make on an episode also. So today's recipe is very easy. What are the ingredients? I'll let you know. And you do not need a pressure cooker for this. Why? Because we will be frying the mutton with the spices and we'll let it slowly cook on low heat. So this recipe was basically originated, or it actually came from the Landi Kotal area in the KPK region, and as I said, it is the predecessor of Karai Gosht. Till date, it's also used over there and it's actually enjoyed a lot. And you know why is this recipe still loved as compared to the other recipes? Why? Because this recipe is much more lighter on your appetite, on your stomach and on your digestive system. Why? Because when you talk about Karai Gosht, it gets a little heavy. And as everyone knows that the Mughal Empire came much after the people who were ruling in this subcontinent area, which were also once upon a time Sikhs were ruling over this area. Why? Because if you go to Peshawar, you still see this very big fort over there, which was the headquarters of the Sikh kingdom back in the day. And they also say that Ranjit Singh used to rule from that area in those days basically. So this recipe is very easy. We're making two recipes actually. Why? Because we will make a recipe which is very full, hearty, and it will be a bit heavy. Why? Because we're using a lot of oil and all these things. Pakistani cooking is a lot about greasy food, you can say. But if you take it towards the high dining side or the fine dining side, people in Pakistan, the new restaurants that are coming up, are also making their own recipes and giving it their own take. But the masses in Pakistan are still used to having such form of food. So the second recipe we're doing is the lassi. It's very famous throughout the world, but today we're doing the authentic lassi, which is originated from Lahore. It's called the meathi lassi. But when you go to the Androon Lahore, what does Androon Lahore means? Androon Lahore means the old city of Lahore, which was actually governed by the Mughal Empire also, and it had 12 gates. So between those 12 gates, the city was residing and the people used to flourish over there, while the Red Fort was the center of that area. So this recipe is still made by the same family called the Fika family in Old Lahore, which is also known as Androon Lahore, and it's been around 110 years since they've been making this recipe, and they use mithai. What is mithai? Mithai is the way the French or the Swiss people love chocolate. In Pakistan, people love mithai. Mithai is just like chocolate, but in chocolate you obviously use cocoa powder. Over here we use a lot of, you can say, butter. You can say we use a lot of fresh dry fruits, and we make it with a lot of lentils. You might be thinking that, what is he saying? But I'll give you an example of gajar ka halwa. Gajar ka halwa is a mithai, is a sweet dish in which you actually cook desiccated carrots in clarified butter, sugar, and it tastes delicious. So this is the thing which we'll be using, but this is the second part of the episode. The first part is as follows. You need ginger, garlic, green chilies, cumin seeds, you need coriander powder, you need some chili flakes, not too much, just a bit, because why, we're used to chili, and then you need around a cup of oil. and then you need around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 tomatoes. And we shall not peel the tomatoes right now, but I'll tell you how the people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Pathans over there, basically take the peel off from the tomato while they're cooking it also. You need some mutton, which is half a kg. I'll keep it over here. And all the other things will go towards the end in the second recipe of today, which is also the lassi. It's a sweet lassi made with fruit, made with barfi. Barfi is the local sweet of Pakistan. It's very famous after gulab jamun. And now we shall start. So first of all, what you need is, you need a wok. The wok goes over here. Increase the heat to full. And once it comes to heat, what we'll do, we'll add some things. But for that, what we need first is we need to start off with the garlic. And what we'll do is we'll just finely slice it, because this recipe has meat and we don't use a lot of other spices. When we're cooking biryani or we're making korma or kofta or anything like that from Pakistan, you see a variety of masalas, spices in front of us. The only 2 spices we're using today is the dry spices is coriander powder, cumin and red chili. That is it, only 3 spices. So this recipe will taste a lot like the meat you're using, but you won't smell the meat. People have a complaint that in Pakistan usually, or around the world, that mutton is very difficult to cook, and when people cook mutton, they smell this strong smell that comes from it, but it should be cured. How it should be cured, I'll let you know. So first of all, what you need is, you need to chop the garlic, but when I'm chopping the garlic, I'll keep it around a 1/4 inch thick. Why? Because I want it to get golden, but I don't want it to get really brown. So slowly and gradually, chop it. And as you can see, I've made slices of it. I'll keep it over here, push it on the side. Then you'll take some ginger. Okay, the pan has come to heat, so first of all what we'll do is we'll add the oil. The oil is going to come to heat eventually. So now you need the ginger. We shall cut it like the chefs do it. We also call it julienne. This much is enough, and just finely slice it. Some people ask me, why don't you chop the things and keep it in front of you and just toss it in the pan? It's because every dish is cooked differently, and the smallest of the difference in the cut will lead to a very big difference towards the end product. So you really need to know that you have to teach each and everything to people. Why? Because we're not keeping secrets over here. The oil has come to heat. It's pretty hot. So first we'll add half of the ginger and half of the garlic. Okay, now add some salt, around just a pinch. Why? Because I want the ginger and garlic to lose its moisture. That's it. It's been around, you can say, 45 seconds. I'm just going to add the meat into it, and I'm going to cook it. So we're basically frying the meat. And as you can see, the meat is over here. Pick it up and start frying it. One more thing. You need to add more salt now. Why? Because you need the mutton to start losing its flavor. And mix it up well. Now what I'll do is, I'll give it a lid and let it cook right now for around, you can say, 5 minutes. Okay. Till then this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll get ready with all the other ingredients. You need the tomatoes. So what I'll do is I'll take all the tomatoes, and firstly I'll take the eye of the tomato out. So I'll cut this part. And now you need to make a cross at the bottom, like this. For this recipe, you add the tomatoes as whole, and you won't make pieces of it. Reduce the heat. And now, this side, what I'll do is, I'll take my paring knife, and I'll just start cutting through it. So what I'm doing is, I'm making a hole in between, like this. I'm keeping it here. And why am I doing it? It's because when you'll make a hole, the heat and the oil will penetrate till the center, and the tomatoes are going to get soft, and they will start falling apart, which we want it to happen. Keep it here, and there goes the last one. All of this goes in the dustbin. Open this up, and as you can see, the mutton is frying, and just place the tomatoes in the oil. It's fine if the mutton comes up. Why? Because we fried it a bit, and you'll add the remaining ginger and garlic on the top. This is done. So now, till the time this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll go for a short break, and once we're back from the break, I'll let you know what to do. Why? Because right now you need the tomatoes to get soft, and when they'll get soft, I'll take the peel out of the tomatoes, and then I will continue with the recipe. We cannot add anything right now because everything has a time when it comes to this recipe. So keep watching Indus Cuisine and don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break we did nothing. I waited for you, and on low heat I was just cooking this. So now what you need to do is you can pick up a fork, or if you have this one, you just need to take the peel off. So what I did was I just made cuts on the tomatoes and I just added into the oil, and what will happen is, as you can see, the peels are going to start falling on the side, and you shall take them out. Why are you taking the peel off? You're taking the peel off because the peels do not dissolve and they should come in your mouth, and you always take it out when you're making this recipe. So as I said, small things should be taught. Why? Because that's my job. So I'm just taking the peels out slowly and gradually. It's a little hot, be careful. This is done. So the peels go on the side, you don't need them anymore. This goes here. And now what you need to do is start crushing the tomatoes in the oil. I am just crushing the tomatoes in the oil, and this will start frying, and you should get that beautiful flavor and taste. As you can see, now the tomatoes have converted into a nice paste. Now we shall mix it. This is the time when the recipe will start getting its flavor and taste. So take this on the side. You can see the oil on the side. So what I'll do is I'll quickly add the cumin over here where the oil is. You'll add the coriander powder where the oil is. It's not too much, it's only 1 teaspoon. Then the red chili flakes, a little bit, that's it. Keep it on the side, mix it up. And wherever you see the tomatoes, if they're not properly breaking down, just press them and smash them with your spatula. Now what's happening is the tomatoes are frying in the oil and also with the nice tomatoes and the mutton. So all these three things, the tomatoes, the mutton and the oil, they're going together and they're not mixing in each other. So if I would have chopped the tomatoes, what would have happened? It would have lost its water from everywhere and the texture of the recipe would have changed. Okay, so now what you need is you need 3 green chilies. For this recipe, you shall keep the stems on and they're washed properly. The only thing you'll do is you'll take a paring knife, make a cut in between, just slit it out. And I'll pick another one. and just add them deep in. Why? Because you want the green chilies to start frying also, and they will change their shape, you'll see with time. So just push it on the side, press the green chilies, and now give it a lid. Now I shall cook this for another 10 minutes, but on very low heat, so that the mutton gets really soft and all the ingredients and all the flavors start integrating and amalgamating properly with all the sauces inside. Okay, so just reduce the heat and let it just cook. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll switch my knives. I don't need this, I just need a little bit of salt. So I'll just add the salt on the top. Give it a nice shake. Give it a lid and let it cook. So as you can see, I've left the recipe on really low heat. Let it cook for 10 minutes, it's cooking, and as you can see, the oil has come up, the tomatoes are settling down, and it's just frying in its oil now. That's why I basically added the whole tomato and I didn't chop it properly. So when this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll go towards the other recipe. The second recipe, the coriander, will go towards the end on top, freshly chopped coriander. So we're making a lassi. So we're using chiku. So what is chiku? C-H-I-K-O-O. Chiku is the local word for mud apple. It's a very delicious fruit that has been a part of Pakistan for a very, very long time. And whenever the season comes, it's really sweet. Basically, it tastes like sugar molasses in this nice mushy fruit, which also tastes like custard apple. So we'll keep this over here, then we'll keep some barfi. It's a sweet that is made out of milk. They condense the milk, they add some lentils to it, they dry it, they add clarified butter to it, then they add some dry fruits, and over here you can see this pistachio on top, and then we shall use some yogurt and sugar. Now you might be thinking that what is he making today? I'm making a lassi. Lassi is a fruit yogurt based drink. It's very easy, it's very delicious. Just take a paring knife first, and you need to de-seed the mud apples, also known as chiku in our language. The softer they are, if they're falling apart, like these are like medium right now, right? So if my finger was literally just passing through it, you can't eat it because it will be really mushy, but those ones are really good if you're making the milkshake. Why? Because the sugar in it gets really rich and it gets really, really sweet, but it depends. So when it comes to me, I like keeping the sugar very basic, nominal, not too much. But if people like a lot of sugar, take those mud apples which are very, very soft and they're basically falling apart. So what we'll do is we will first cut the mud apples and open them like this. Why? Because the mud apples have seeds inside. I am not passing the knife through it completely. Why? Because I do not want the seeds to start breaking and going to my knife, because my knife can also get damaged. So I'm just going to like cut it and then pull it apart like this. I could have done this and I could have just tossed them in front of you, but I like doing it in front of you. Like I like de-seeding it. Why? Because you need to know how to use this fruit. So just pass your knife through it and just open them. It's just like you can say avocados. There's seeds in between. You just pull them out and you can just now put them on the side. They're very easy to grow also. If you dry these seeds and then you plant them in a small pot near your kitchen window, you'll see that this fruit will start growing. It's a very strong plant. When I say strong, it means that if you want to grow it in like substandard soil, you do not need a lot of fertilizers to nourish it. So it will work. It's a very interesting story. So when I was a kid, I have lived all my life in the city of Karachi basically, and because the British people ruled over here, the East India Company, so wherever the Britishers rule, they have their own clubs and they call it Gymkhana. So Karachi Gymkhana, then there's London Gymkhana also. So when I used to be a kid, my mother used to take me swimming, and you could see these mud apple trees everywhere growing. And what we used to do is, after we used to swim, obviously you feel, you know, that your energy levels are dropping, even though we had like great buffets over there and good food. What we used to do as kids, me and my friend, we used to go towards these mud apple trees, pick them, and then we used to, you know, eat them sitting beneath the tree, and it used to be a really nice experience. And now, as I tell my mother at times, that the new generation now, they're hardly into sports. So I believe that, you know, when you're a kid, you need to do all of these things. Why? Because when you do all of these activities, you realize the value of life. You realize that there is culture apart from your screens also. And that's what I would want one day for my children even. Anyway, so you've added the marapus. Now what you'll do is you'll add around 2 cups of yogurt. If you do not have fresh yogurt, what you can do is you can get Greek yogurt from any store and you can use it. Do not use sweetened yogurt, please, that will ruin it. Then you shall add around 2 teaspoons of sugar, and you need to first rinse your hands. Why? Because they're getting really, really sticky. And then we need around 1 liter of milk. I'm basically making this recipe for, or this milkshake in the Western language, we call it lassi, for around, you can say 4 people. So always, once you've made it, put it in the fridge, let it cool down properly, at least for half an hour, and then serve it. Usually in Pakistan, what people do is they add ice if it's a very commercial place or a shop that's selling this thing. But if you want to do it right, chill it and then serve it. Why? Because the ice you will add will water this down. So 1 liter of water, 2 cups of yogurt, and now just spin it. So till time this is happening, what I'll do is I'll get 2 glasses and I'll start dishing it out, because you need to add some other things also in it. When this is done, you can see it's really thick. We shall add a little bit of the sweet that is made in Pakistan. So we'll add around 1.5 per glass. There are 2, 3, 4, and there's 6 pieces that will go in for 4 people. Mix it up again. And this is done. I should dish it out. I'll just dish out 2 glasses in front of you right now. It's thick. And it's delicious. It's basically a meal in itself also. Keep the rest on the side. And now what you can do is, first change the board. Why you do not want to use the vegetable board for this. Take a fresh board which is washed nicely. Take a piece of barfi. Keep this on the side, do not shake it much. Take a knife and really thin slice the barfi. And the lassi is done. So now what I'll do is, I'll dish this out and I'll come back and I'll show you the final look of the recipe also. So as you can see, today's recipe is done. We made 2 recipes. They're both delicious. So one was basically a milkshake. That's what you would call it in the West, but we call it a lassi. Why? Because it is yogurt based. It has milk. It has fruit. It has our local sweet dish called mithai also, which we call barfi. There are hundreds of different types of mithais in Pakistan. If you go, you'll see different types of mithais everywhere, just like different types of chocolates you can find in the West. And then we made a very nice Namkeen Gosht, which is from the KPK area. I hope you liked today's episode. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself. Keep cooking. Happy cooking. Bye-bye.